Hello, everybody. Hello, Miss O'Neill. Hello, Mrs. Chapman. Hello, Mr. Olson. All right, starting to come in now. Hello, Mr. Galvan, Mr. Tillman, Miss White. Hello, CMA El Paso. I believe that's Mr. Morales. Hello, Komodo Academy. Really excited about today's topic. Done a few webinars, but it's been a couple of years now that have touched on this, but this is a really big deep dive. And I appreciate you guys hopping on. I am freezing in Florida. Yesterday, it's been in the 40s. What is that? Today's it's the 50s. I know for some of you, you scoff at that. You guys are in 10 feet of snow. -1. Oh, Mr. Tillman, I don't know how you guys deal with that. Hello, 75. There we go. That's why we live in Florida, but it has been getting cold, especially early in the morning. Hello, Mr. Yun. Hello, Mr. Rodriguez. Hello, Mr. Ribeiro. All right, let's do it. I don't like wasting much time. We've got a lot to unpack. I would grab some pen and paper, especially when we get into the 5 key, the 20 top strategies that I believe you should implement. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And we're going over how to take control of your online reputation and drive more sales. Hello, Mr. Kennedy. Let's do it. All right, guys, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, please. As always, you will get a copy of the keynote. We will have this out today, maybe tomorrow at the latest. One of my absolute favorite topics. This is something that at my academy, we really have kind of cracked the code on, and I'm going to be sharing exactly how we were able to get it. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about some frustrations and wants that I believe that school owners have in regards to their online reputation. Go over a couple of stats. I'm going to cover some initial requirements that you're going to need to do on your Google business profile. Talk about the 5 key principles, and then my 20 top review building concepts. As I'm going through, if you have any questions at all, drop them in the chat. I've got the chat on my 3rd screen over here, so I can and will get to all of your questions. All right. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Chris. I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I started my martial arts journey at a Junri Institute of Taekwondo, March 15th, 1993. I was 8 years old. Ended up falling in love with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a 1st degree black belt under the Hoist Gracie lineage. I own Gracie Pack MMA in Tampa, Florida. Also the founder of Grow Pro Agency. We run Facebook ads, Google ads. We do social media management, database reactivation for about 240 some odd schools all over the United States. I'm also an author of a bestseller, The Best Known Dojo, which is a marketing book for your martial arts school. And I'm the digital marketing consultant for MAIA, the Martial Arts Industry Association. So if this is your first webinar with me, welcome. Make sure you grab a pen and paper. You're going to go over actionable steps. This is not like every other webinar in the industry where they just give you an idea and at the end of the slide they say click this link and give me a ton of money. I don't do any sales. I don't do that. I've committed to this just to help our industry completely for free. Okay. So online reviews and reputation can make or break your company. I want you to think right now, and this is, I don't want to say it's common, but it has happened to a lot of us. I want you to think about how you feel when somebody says something negatively about your school, or if they leave a negative review. Let's think about that. And let's get in the chat. I like engagement. How many of you have ever got a negative review? Whether it's a 1-star, a 2-star, we have a handful of them. So I'll be the first to say, yes, we have. Let me know in the chat. Yes, I've gotten a negative review online. Miss Van Dusen says, I take it personal. I understand that. Mr. Olson, sure, it's super hard not to take it personally. I've gotten one. I have. Mr. Tillman, no, hopefully never. I've got 1 star on Facebook from some guy in Ecuador who's never been to this country, right? And that can happen. You know, I think what's most frustrating is when somebody leaves a negative review on Google, but they don't use their actual name. They use like some gamer tag. So you can't even really tell if this person has actually been in your facility. We went many, many years, probably like 6 or 7 years before we got our first bad review. Okay, now let me tell you this. I was super frustrated when we got our negative review. I literally grabbed my phone and I reached out to every contact in my phone, whether it was people I knew from high school, my grandma, my second cousin, my aunt, because the only way that you'll ever be able to get back up to 5 stars is drowning out those negative reviews with 5-star reviews. Okay, we've all been there. And let me tell you something. You got to remember the law of numbers. Okay, Biggie said it best: more money, more problems. And the larger your school gets, the longer it's been around, the more people that interact with your business, the higher chance that you have of getting those negative reviews. Okay, I know the Jillies have dealt with consistently getting bad reviews from their competitors, which just kind of blows my mind. Like, what kind of business person, what kind of human being do you really have to do to target your competitors, right? It's just pure jealousy. Mr. Blackman, same thing. Most are from competitors. So it's gonna happen, guys. All right. And I'm just pre-framing that for those of you it hasn't happened, it will happen. And today's webinar is going to really teach you how to deal with that. Okay. So thank you for those of you that shared, that got in the chat. Always more fun when we're engaging with each other. So some of the biggest mistakes that I see school owners making in regards to their reviews and their Google business profile, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, is that they're just more reactive instead of proactive. They don't necessarily have systems in place to consistently get 5-star reviews. It's like, oh, you know, you get the email from Google that says you got a 5-star review, or the email from Facebook that somebody left a recommendation. You're like, oh, that's great. But most school owners don't have systems in place to consistently get it. Most school owners also don't leverage other tools or automations, okay? And most of the CRMs that are standard in our industry give you the ability to leverage those automations. And then finally, they're just not consistent, right? Sometimes, let's say you watch this webinar and you're all pumped up about improving your online reputation. So, you do a couple of the strategies and then you just kind of forget about it 6 months down the road. Maybe you rewatch the webinar and you get pumped again. We need it to be consistent, because studies show that reviews that are more than 3 months old, just 3 months, reviews that are more than 3 months old aren't relevant. All right. So we've got to make sure we do have a system in place to consistently get those reviews. Okay. And then what are the wants? We want to be the best known dojo in our area. And we want our online reputation to help us stand out from the competition. Also want you to work smarter and not harder. And that's where automations come into play. And then, when somebody looks at my business on Google or on Facebook or on Instagram, I really want our reputation to speak for itself online. Okay. 84% of people trust an online review. 77% think reviews more than 3 months old aren't relevant. I just want you to think of like your behavior when you go on Amazon, right? So Christmas was, about a month ago. I'm sure many of you purchased items on Amazon, and I'm sure instead of reading the description, the first thing that you did was scroll down to the bottom. And especially because there's so many resellers on Amazon, if I see reviews that are a few months old and nothing up to date, I'm not 100% convinced that that product is still the same way that it was a year ago or 6 months ago, which is why it's so important to consistently get reviews. They are mission critical, all right? Your reviews, not a lot of people know this, but your reviews actually impact your Google rankings. So when somebody Googles martial arts in your town area, the number of Google reviews, the higher you have, it can help you rank higher on Google's SERP, S-E-R-P, which is the search engine results page. What I love about this strategy of really putting your online reputation first is it typically gives you the at-bat first. Meaning, if somebody's searching for martial arts in Albuquerque and you've got 150 five-star reviews and your closest competitor has 17 five-star reviews, more than likely you're going to get clicked on first. That doesn't mean that they're signing up with you, but it does mean you typically get the at-bat first, okay? And it is a major conversion factor. At every enrollment, we ask, how did you find out about us? And they will usually tell us, oh, Facebook ads, or, oh, we found you on Google. And then we always hear your reviews were so much better than everybody else's. So it is a major conversion factor, and it really builds that know, like, and trust factor before they've even stepped foot into your facility. All right. So these are mission critical. And I put Google reviews are mission critical. Facebook recommendations are important as well. But if I had to choose, what would I prefer? Would I prefer a Google review or would I prefer a Facebook recommendation? I would definitely take Google. Yelp isn't huge on the East Coast. I know we've got some of you West Coasters, and Yelp seems to be much more popular on the West Coast. We've had, and I see Miss Jen has had some issues with Yelp as well. Man, once you get your phone number, they won't stop calling. And if you do not sign up for whatever they are trying to pitch, all of a sudden you start getting negative reviews on Yelp. But even if you are on the West Coast, I do believe Google is mission critical. Okay. Now, in order for you to obtain and build your online reputation on Google, there's a couple of requirements that you have to have. Okay. And the first one is you got to make sure you're following Google's policies. There was a consultant, this was probably about 5 years ago, that posted this coffee mug. And he put it in a group. It was just a coffee mug with his school's logo on it. And he said every time, we want to improve our Google reviews, we just blast an email or blast a text message and tell everybody that if they give us a 5-star Google review, we're going to give them this coffee mug. Well, that 100% goes against Google's policy. There's a bounce house place right next to our martial arts school. I brought my son Cruz there last weekend, and they have this huge banner up on the wall that says, give us a 5-star review and we'll give you a free drink. Again, this is against Google's requirements. Now, do I think the Google police are going to come knocking on your door because you gift somebody something for a review? No, but if you're going to play that game, you got to remember that it is against Google's policies, okay? You also have to make sure you have a place on Google's map, and you're going to have that if you have a Google business profile that is verified. So if you go to, just pull this up over here, business.google.com. This used to be called Google My Business. And with anything that's online and has to do with the internet or social media or digital marketing, things evolve and these things change. This actually used to be known as Google Places, and it was known as Google Plus. Now they're calling it your Google Business Profile. All right. So Google My Business is so 2021, and Google Business Profile is 2022. just to make sure that you are correct with the lingo. And as you can see, when going there, if you have been verified, you'll have that little blue check. Typically, when you are creating your Google My Business profile, they are going to either require you to get something in the mail and they give you a confirmation code and you plug it in. I recently did this for another company and I didn't have to do that. I just had to verify a phone number with a text message, which I thought was much more convenient than having to wait on snail mail. Okay. So those are the requirements. Let's get into the principles. Key principle number one, if you want to have a great online reputation, you better be providing world-class customer experiences. That's it. Okay. All of us say we have the best classes and the best instructors. Make sure you are providing world-class customer experience, because the absolute best way to bankrupt a bad business is with great marketing. All right. And anytime I'm going to start working with somebody, and I think this is important for you guys, whether it's in the martial arts industry, whether it's you need to hire somebody to do some handiwork in your house, go check their Google reviews. Every time a new consultant pops up in the martial arts industry, when they start giving advice, one of the first things I go do is I look at their school's Google reviews. If you've got a ton of people calling you a scam artist or talking smack about your programs or how rude the owners are, that's a red flag. You might not want to listen to that person. All right. So do your due diligence. And sometimes we get negative reviews, and yes, they hurt, but that feedback can also help you improve your customer experience, because the customers, you know, we have a saying here at GrowPro, the customer isn't always right, but the customer is always the customer. And it is important to reply to those negative reviews in a professional way, which we'll get to more in a second. Key principle number two, you've got to build this into your company culture. Everybody on the team needs to be on board on when do they ask for Google reviews, what needs to happen, what needs to trigger. And ideally, if you really want to build this into your culture, then this has to be built into your core values. And it also should be built into your team meetings, which brings me to key principle number three. What you measure, inspect, and celebrate, you create more of. What you measure, inspect, and celebrate, you create more of. So think of the KPIs that you track, your key performance indicators that you track during your staff meetings, right? You're probably going over number of leads, number of appointments. You're going over number of closes, number of trials, how many renewals, how many upgrades. What about tracking your number of reviews? Bring this front and center for your team. Highlight them during your team meetings and set a goal for your team to hit at the end of each quarter. Because what you measure and what you inspect and also what you celebrate, you create more of, okay? Key principle number four, leverage best-in-class tools and automations to request reviews after classes, after events, after appointments, and ensure that you communicate using all of the channels. Now, most of the CRMs that are industry standard have the ability to do this. After somebody hits a certain amount of classes, you can send this out to request a review. Now, the only thing I'm not a huge fan of on automations is, let's say you set it up so that, it goes out and it on their 10th class or their 15th class or every 20 classes, and you ask for feedback, right? And some of the CRMs are pretty cool that if you get positive feedback, then it will ask them to leave a review. But if you don't get positive feedback, maybe they get the email and it asks how class was. Maybe they just had a bad class. Maybe their kid got hurt. Maybe something happened. Somebody just, wasn't a good day. And now they give you a 1-star review in that communication. Ideally, we don't then want to prompt them to leave that as a Google review. And some of the CRMs in our industry will actually do that. If you get more stars, it'll prompt them to leave a review. If you get less stars, it won't. Okay, so that's kind of the only thing you got to be careful about automations. I don't want you asking for somebody for some feedback. They had a terrible class for whatever reason, and now you got a 1-star review on Google, okay? Key principle number, and that should say 5, my apologies, is acknowledge and respond to every review. You got to put a system in place to ensure that every review gets responded to. This should be one person's responsibility on the team, whether that's you as the owner, whether that's your program director, your head instructor. When you set up your business Google profile, you will have a main email, and anytime you get a review, whether it's good or bad, you will get an email stating you got that review. So it actually notifies you, so you can then go in and respond. And my recommendation, business is all about relationships. That's all business is, right? How many positive relationships and interactions can we have on a consistent basis? That's how you build a business. I want you to make sure that those responses aren't some just cookie cutter, like, thanks for the 5-star review. If you know who that person is, I always like to not necessarily state the child's name if it was a parent, because sometimes parents don't want their kids' names online, right? Some parents are just weird about that. So if I knew that they were a tiny ninja or a little ninja or a junior warrior, we're going to make that response a little bit more personalized. We love having your little ninja in our programs. They are doing XYZ. Great job with their classes, whatever. But don't just make it super cookie cutter, all right? I want you to try to personalize it as much as possible. So now that you know the 5 principles, you got to have world-class customer experience. You want to build this into your company culture. You need to manage, inspect, and celebrate. And ideally, just putting that into your weekly team meeting is a great way to track it. We want to leverage automations, and we've got to acknowledge and respond. In the chat box, out of those 5, which one do you feel like you have the most room for improvement? Just drop the number in the chat, whether it's, man, we really got to build this into our company culture. Our team doesn't really know, how to ask for those reviews, or maybe we got to leverage automations. Just let me know in the chat. I see a lot of 2s, build into the company culture. I see some 1s, some 3s, some 5s. Awesome. Thank you for participating. So now you kind of know these are, the 5 key principles and where we need to shift our focus. But I want to give you some really tactical concepts here, things that you can literally implement today, right? Today, you can implement this, all right? So there's 20 of them, guys. I really racked my brain on every single way that we have been able to hit triple digits and beyond. We're 200 and some odd 5-star reviews. And that's really my ultimate goal for you, is to be hitting triple digits, because most schools do not have triple digit 5-star reviews. Most schools are, they're in that 10 to 20 to 30 range. And if I'm looking at a school that's got 20 reviews and another school that has 220 reviews, I'm going to click on the one that has more. Okay. So let's go through these 20 concepts. I want you to take notes on each one, and the ones that really resonate with you, that you feel like, man, this could really help us move the needle forward, just put a little asterisk next to it so you know that that's what you're going to implement. Okay. So number 1, you need to create a review link, and you can do this inside of your business profile manager. So you go to business.google.com, and on the dashboard, it will actually, it depends on just kind of how you have your dashboard laid out. But on this dashboard, there is usually, here we go, your reviews. And it says share review form. And what it'll do is it'll give you this shorter link that you can use, okay? Sometimes the link, if you try to share it, it's just really, really, really long. Now, if you want to take this one step further, you could actually create something called a Bitly link, okay? Now, Bitly is a platform that basically shortens your URL, okay? Let me get logged in. It's free. You just got to sign. It's a completely free sign up. And then you can paste your, see if it'll let me log in. There we go. I can paste this somewhat long link, right? It's not super long, but who's going to remember that? g.page/r. Like nobody's going to remember that, right? So I can put that in there, and then I can hit create, and it'll give me a shorter link. But what's even cooler is I can edit that link to really be whatever I want as long as it hasn't been taken. So I could do like pack review, and I hit save. And now all I need to do is give somebody that pack review, and it'll bring them to the page to leave a review. And it'll bring them to my Google My Business. And now, boom, they can leave a review. I mean, how long did that take, guys? That like took maybe what, 30 seconds? Okay. So I would definitely recommend getting your review link. And then if you want to take it a step further, plugging it into Bitly and, creating maybe like a Bitly / with like an acronym of your school name, or, if you have a tagline or something like that. It just makes it a little bit easier, and it's a cleaner looking link when you send that out. Okay. Next up, and Miss Jilly was ahead of me. She said QR code. Absolutely. You can create a Google review QR code. How do you do that? Go to Google and Google free QR code generator, right? I mean, you are going to find many different websites that will allow you to do this free QR code generator. Some of them you have to have a login. Some of you don't. But create that QR code. One of my clients, Guy and Rob Pendergrass, they actually have this on their school window. So they got it printed on vinyl, and they put it on the window inside of their school, so that people could leave reviews that way. Miss Jilly here, she says she's got it in the waiting area for the parents. Okay, so want to make this as simple as possible for people. Another really cool thing that you can do is include your Google review link in your email signature. All right. So when your team is sending out emails, you could have that Google review link in the signature. It's a very like non-spammy way to ask people for Google reviews. I'm a huge fan of utilizing postscripts. If I create an email here, I've got a couple of different signatures that I use. Let me compose, and you can just have this, built into your email provider. But this is my postscript, and it has different calls to action. Now, I'm not using a Google review as a call to action, but I do have different call to actions in here. So this is just kind of like a really cool way to add call to actions, whether it's Google review, whether it's book an appointment, whether it's join our Facebook group, and it's very non-spammy. Okay. Tip number 4, create a Google review how-to flyer, and you could even just take your QR code and put it on here as well. This is something we've been using for many, many, many years, like even before QR codes were popular. And it's just kind of interesting how QR codes have made a comeback because of COVID and because of restaurants utilizing QR codes because they don't want to be handing out menus anymore. Okay. Tip number 5. How many of you have lobby TVs? All right. We've got a lobby TV that rotates all of the news that's going on in our facility. Well, could you gently ask people? Yeah, Mr. Young, I was like, man, he's taking good notes. That's awesome. I love it. Keep sharing them. Could you prompt people to leave a review on your lobby TV, right? And just kind of have a couple of standard slides with things like asking for Google reviews, all right? Very easy. Most of you already have the lobby TV. Just throw in an additional slide. You can even put the QR code on there. So they just take their phone and they put it up to the TV, and then they can leave the Google review. Now, let me tell you one thing that you got to be really careful of. So I had this genius idea, which is what I thought it was, to set up an iPad at our school that was solely used for, and this was like before a lot of these CRM companies had like iPad check-in apps, right? I mean, that's kind of like a newer feature within the last few years. But when I first opened Gracie Pack, I was like, let me get an iPad and a stand, And the only thing that will be used for is Google reviews, okay? Now, Google does check on the IP address that people give Google reviews from. And this is why it's not really a great idea to have a standardized like just area. This is only for Google reviews, okay? So if they see a bunch of Google reviews coming in from the same IP address, sometimes they will block those Google reviews, all right? Just something to think about. Next up, number 6, and this is really, I mean, this was the number one strategy that took us to triple digits. The Pendergrasses, I was talking about Guy and Rob that had the QR code. We at the time, they were my very first A-team clients, and they're actually senior ad account managers at GrowPro. They run a very successful jiu-jitsu school in Raleigh, North Carolina. We both had around the same amount of reviews. And I said, listen, man, I really want to hit triple digits. There's something just about 100. What if we do a contest? If you beat me, I'll send you $100. If I beat you, you send me $100. And now what we did is at the end of each class, we would tell them, hey, we're in competition with another jiu-jitsu school in another state to see who can hit triple digits the first. And of course, everybody wanted to help and participate. Now, I ended up losing the competition, but did I really lose? Because I ended up hitting triple digit Google reviews. So it really was a win-win. I'm still a little bitter that they still have a few more. This was a screenshot that I took from yesterday when I was building out the keynote. I was like, man, they're still ahead of us. The student has surpassed the teacher, which should always be the goal anyways. But host a competition. And if you have multiple locations, how easy is that? You have a competitor already built in, all right? People love helping win competitions. And as simple, as silly as this might seem, this is how we were able to go from like 40 Google reviews to triple digit Google reviews in a very, very short period of time, okay? Number 7, and I'm always going to give credit where credit is due. This is another Pendergrass, and it wasn't even their idea. It was their program director's idea, Sue. So Sue is the program director of Pendergrass Academy of Martial Arts, and she had set out as one of her 90-day rocks. A rock is a project that has to get completed by the end of the quarter. It's a part of the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, which is a system we use in all of our companies. It's something I teach my clients. And she was a few reviews off. They wanted to hit like 215 reviews. And this was just last month. So she sent out this email that said, the subject line was all I want for Christmas. And then in the body of the email, she explained that one of her goals as program director was to hit 215 5-star reviews. She was off by a few, and she asked everybody as her Christmas present to give a 5-star review. If you saw the last slide, her goal was 215. Look what they're sitting at. They're at 227 now, okay? Mr. James, we just did this and immediately got several 5-star reviews. Mr. Tillman, we did this and got several reviews in short order. I love it. So these are Maya clients. This was something that I shared with our Maya clients. It's the all I want for Christmas thing. Obviously, you can really only do that in December, but maybe you could think of a creative way to tweak that as well, okay? But this was huge. We did it too, and we got a ton of Google reviews overnight, okay? Number 8. And this is something I'm really proud of. I had not seen this in our industry until it was something that I created, but we have this brand ambassador program. And that is an actual picture of the corrugated plastic sign that we have up on our walls. It's right near our water fountain area. And it just says, do you love Gracie Pack? Do you want to help us out? And it basically gives them 4 action items in order to become a Gracie Pack brand ambassador. And if they do, they receive a free gift. And that free gift is a Gracie Pack brand ambassador t-shirt that you cannot purchase. You could write a check for $1,000. I'm not giving you the shirt. The only way you can get the shirt is if you do these 4 things. Refer a friend, leave a recommendation, leave a Google review, and check in on social media. So what's really cool is we have these shirts hanging in our pro shop, and they're cool looking shirts, and we'll have parents come up and say, oh, I want to buy that shirt. Well, we'll say, you know what, even better, I'll give it to you for free. And they're like, what? What do you mean I can get it for free? Yeah, all you have to do is become a Gracie Packing ambassador, and this is how you would go about doing so, okay? This is against Google's policy. Just going to tell you that, all right? But I'm taking a little bit of a risk here. I don't think Google's going to come knocking on our door. Miss Chapman says, can you post a pic of the shirt? Yes, I can. So that is our brand ambassador program, just kind of a cool way that we have, one, just been able to get more reviews, more recommendations, more referrals, more check-ins, right? Which is all marketing and a way that we can give back to our families, okay? Number 9. Now, I don't know how popular drop-ins are in traditional martial arts schools, but in the BJJ world, drop-ins are really, really popular. We're about 10 minutes from Tampa International Airport. So if you're not necessarily in like a travel city or, you know, a place that a lot of people are flying in and out of, this might not work as well. But I mean, we get drop-ins every single month. And in the jiu-jitsu community, typically you pay a mat fee. It might be $20. And some schools like Marcelo Garcia's, it's like $75 for a drop-in. What we always tell people, and they're prepared to pay, they'll come in and they'll say, what is your mat fee? And we'll say, you know what, after class, if you could just leave us an honest review on Google, we'll go ahead and waive the mat fee. And they're super excited about that. They immediately leave us a 5-star review. And oftentimes, because they were already prepared to spend the money, they buy a t-shirt from us or a rash guard or something from our pro shop. So it's really a win-win. Honestly, that 5-star Google review is worth more than $20 to me. Okay, so if you are in an area where you get a lot of traffic, a lot of drop-ins, forego the $20 and ask for the Google review. Athens Jiu-Jitsu, we use this concept. The review is much better than the mat fee. Absolutely. So next up, moments of impact. So this is actually what my next book is going to be about, which I'm already started writing. Really excited about that. But a moment of impact is a moment in the customer's journey that they're going to remember forever. And if you think back to your own martial arts experience, just think back to those moments that really stick out, those memories that really stick out. One of them for me was the day that I got my very first stripe. Typically, you would get stripes after class, but for whatever reason, my instructor, Mr. Ryan Cook, he called me to the front of the class when we were bowing out class, and he, gave this great speech about how great I was doing. Had all of the classmates come over, and it was a picture my mom took. It's a picture I still have today of me earning my very first stripe on my white belt with all of my classmates surrounding me. That is a moment of impact, right? When somebody earns their black belt, when they get nominated to Black Belt Club or the elite program. These are times where people are at a high. And this is a great opportunity for you to ask for Google reviews, okay? I think it was Miss Neville's that at the end of each graduation ceremony, they actually asked the parents to stand up and share what has been their biggest takeaway. And, these parents are at a high. They're seeing their children succeed. They're seeing their children progress. And then at the end of that graduation ceremony, they ask everybody that shared and stood up and shared in front of the entire audience if they wouldn't mind putting that on Google. All right. So just think about the different moments of impact, these different kind of points in your customer's journey where they're really at a high. And this is a great opportunity for you to ask them to put their story online. Okay. Mr. Cotty, spread the love for Valentine's Day. Gym name needs some love. Please show your love and leave us a kind review. There you go. There's your workaround for Christmas. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Cotty. Number 11, do you have a new member packet? We're about halfway through. Hopefully you guys are getting some good ideas here, okay? Or maybe some of these you've heard before, but you kind of put it on the back burner and they're not really front and center. This is going to bring it back to the front for you. If you have a new member packet, put the Google review flyer in there, put the QR code in there. You could put your bit.ly link in there. But you just got to remember people are being bombarded with information when they're first enrolling. And that's usually one of the most exciting times, right? When you're first getting started, when you get that first belt, when you get nominated to these upgrade programs, when you earn your black belt. So just stick it in the new member packet, really simple way to help you increase your Google reviews, okay? Number 12, automate it. So, you know, I love automations, but I don't necessarily love automations. You just got to make sure that the automation isn't in place just so that it serves you. The automation needs to be put in place so it serves the customer as well. And oftentimes automations are put in place for businesses just to serve the business. Bank of America is a great example of that, right? You call Bank of America up, and you're gonna have to listen to all these freaking announcements and info and press this number and press. It can take 5 minutes just to get on the phone with a human being. And then, oh, wait, but you got to put your PIN number. And then I need you to type in your entire credit card number or your account number, right? That serves the business. That isn't serving the customer. So think of automations that you can put in place. One of the examples that I gave earlier was an after class sequence. One of the ones that we do is a nurture sequence, which most people have nurture sequences for their prospects, but do you have nurture sequences for your own students? So I locked myself into my office for about 8 hours one weekend, many, many years ago. And I wrote out all of the moments of impact, all of these really important moments that happen at each stage of a customer journey. And I thought about when would the student experience that, right? Like if they're going to be earning a stripe, well, we stripe test at the end of every month. So if they've been with us for at least 4 weeks, they will have seen a stripe test. So the 4th week automation talked about stripe testing. About 3 months in, we start looking at nominating them for their next program, which is our elite program. So at about 3 months in, there's an email about what our elite program is. So I wrote out 52 emails, right? Chris, you're nuts. That's a lot of emails. I mean, these aren't like 5,000 word essays. These are snippets. People don't have the attention span to read something very long. A lot of it is bullet pointed, okay? But one, it's a constant reminder every single week of the value that we provide. A lot of the information that's in the emails is exactly what's in our new student handbook. Literally, like I looked at the new student handbook to create content for this. And there are emails throughout that have a call to action to leave a 5-star review with a link to click on. Now, here's the cool thing about automations. Once you write it, that's it. It's done. You plug it into your CRM. As long as the CRM functions properly, you can ensure that every single week a new student is going to get those emails. Okay, so that is another example of automating the process of improving your online reputation. Number 13, you can do giveaways. Little asterisk there. It is against Google policy. All right, so if you want to give a mug away, you want to give a free water bottle away, just know that it is against Google policy, but pretty much everybody does it. Okay. Number 14, after a fire class. What do I mean by a fire class? Just after an amazing class, right? And Chris, all of my classes are amazing. Okay, the ones that are super amazing during your mat chat at the end of classes, you know, whether it's your, and guys, those mat chats, yes, they're for the kids, but they're really for the parents too. So make sure whenever you're doing that mat chat, you're in a place where the parents can hear you. Okay. But just ask, right? If you taught an adult class and it was just an amazing class, everybody did really, really well. You ask, man, how did everybody enjoy that class? Oh, everybody raises their hand, loved it. Oh, that'd be awesome, guys, if you could share that on Google. All right. So just another way to systemize this. Now, would I ask every single class? No, I would not ask every single class. Announce it after your really, really, really phenomenal classes. Okay. Number 15, make it a part of your culture. How do you make it a part of your culture? One, you measure it and you track it, right? So you're going to put this in your weekly team meeting as a KPI that you're going to track. What we measure and inspect always improves, okay? I hit a PR today in my bench press. I had a goal by the end of this year to be able to bench press my body weight, which is 130 pounds. Well, I hit 120 pounds today. So I'm 10 pounds away from that PR. How do I know that? Because I track it. On my iPad, I have a workout log and I track all of my lifts. What gets measured, what gets inspected, gets improved. Okay. The other way to make it a part of your culture is training your team that every single time they hear a compliment, right? Oh, Coach Chris, Johnny came home from school the other day and I didn't have to tell him. He put his bag away. He sat down at the table, ate his snack, and immediately started doing his homework. He's never done that before. I really think your Matt chat last week about self-discipline really paid off. How often do we hear stuff like that? And we hear stuff like that every single day. Anytime you get a compliment, all you need to do is say, Mrs. Johnson, that is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really think that a lot of people in the Tampa Bay community would get a lot out of you sharing this story. Would you mind putting that on Google for me? They don't say no. They're going to say yes. Now, will 100% of the time people do it? No. But that's why you have those automations. That's why you have those gentle nudges of the review flyer in your lobby, of the QR code on the lobby TV. People need multiple touch points. But this is a great way to make it a part of your culture, train your team. If they hear a compliment, that's a great opportunity to ask, okay? Also ask on social media. You should have a Facebook group for all of your students, okay? You can ask in your group. You can ask on your page. You can send DMs to people. Leverage social media. Ask vendors, partners, allies, family, and friends. One of the very first things I do when I start working with a client and I start getting to know them and their school is I'll go on Google and I'll give them a 5-star review. Right? Will that one review make a difference? No, but it's the compound effect. Every single one will eventually make a difference. You better believe she's 4 now, my 94-year-old grandmother, Olga Montoto, has left a 5-star Google review on my company's business profile. All right. You guys, a lot of you are in different mastermind programs. You're a part of Maya. Ask the people in there. Ask your fellow school owners, right? Hey, I just gave you a 5-star review. Would you mind giving me one as well? Okay, so ask your allies, ask your family, ask your friends, ask your vendors, okay? Number 18, you got to respond. You especially have to respond to ugly and bad reviews. And my recommendation is to write out what you really want to say and then read it aloud and say, yeah, I'm telling them, and then hit delete. And craft a professional response, letting them know that they were heard. And the number one thing you got to do is you've got to give them a way to contact you so you guys can get on the same page. So I would leave an email, I would leave the name of the person, I would leave the phone number. And what that is going to show people is that you are willing to try to make the situation better. Right? I see this all the time when I do a lot of traveling. We stay at a lot of different hotels. We read the reviews. And, you can tell when some of these companies have hired a marketing agency to respond to the negative reviews because it's the same copy and paste crap over and over and over again. It's not personal. They don't leave a name. They don't leave contact information. When I see a company that responds to a negative review in a professional way, regardless of what that person said, to me personally, that negates the negative review because the business person is trying to make it right. And I see so often school owners get pissed off about bad reviews, even if it's not like a real review. And they go on and have this essay long of them just bitching at the customer. Write it out and then delete it and form a professional response. And if you truly believe that that person is not a real, actual customer, one of the easiest things that you can say is that we tried to look you up in our database and we cannot find you as a customer. And then you leave contact information. Be a professional, guys. Type it out, delete it, and then leave a professional response, okay? Number 19, embed reviews on your website. The best industry standard websites, Market Muscles, sorry, something in my throat, will do this automatically for you, okay? They will embed your reviews onto your website. It's a piece of code that they put in there, and it actually like pulls in the person's picture that they have associated with their Google account, which is really cool. Or maybe they'll pull in Facebook recommendations, but embed those on your website as well. Okay. And then finally, thank your customers in person. And I already have a pretty loud voice, right? It's like, I don't need a mic, but I'm not saying I shout this out to a customer, but I do increase the level of my voice so other people around them will hear. And when we see that 5-star review, and we see that family come in, you know, Miss Ramos, thank you so much. I read that 5-star review. I loved how you shared that story about Noe and how he was getting bullied, and he's standing up for him, because I want my other customers to hear that. And I also want to create a culture of reciprocity, right? They did something for me. I'm going to make sure I thank them back. All right. So thank your customers in person every single time they leave a review. All right. And those are my top 20 review building concepts. Now, Chris, you just went over a lot. I know, but some of you might have done a good amount of these. Some of you might not even really have done any of them. Okay. So my recommendation is just choose one. Choose one that you think will move the needle the farthest. Implement that one. If you try to implement all 20, you're probably going to fail miserably, and you're going to say, man, that stuff Chris teaches doesn't work. And that's not true. It does work. It's just you've got to work, right? You've got to implement. Mr. Morales, who needs a 5-star review? I got one for you, sir. You know what I would do is I would put that in the CMA group, or put that in the elite group, and we can just get a thread going, everybody dropping their business profiles. All right, and guys, this is one of the benefits of being part of a mastermind. Mr. Tillman, I would be afraid of accidentally hitting enter on the rant. Yeah, maybe do it on like your Word document, right? Do it on a Word document so you don't have to worry about that. I somehow skipped number 16. Number 16 was just ask for reviews on social media. So just utilize your Facebook group, utilize your business page. Guys, we didn't even really like touch on, okay, now that I got the review, what else can I do with it, right? I told you like thank people. Well, it's very easy to screenshot that review, and now you can use that as a post either on Instagram or on Facebook. You can use those Google reviews in your Facebook ad copy, right? I'm sure you've seen Facebook ads before. They've got like 5 little stars and it has the person's review on there. You can use this in your emails that you blast out. Okay, so there's actually a lot of post-fulfillment items that you can do once you already get the Google reviews. This was really more about building your online reputation and not necessarily what do you do once you have built it. But I'm just curious, out of those 20, what is the one that you want to implement the most? What is the one that you want to implement the most? And don't all type it at once. Mr. Bolts, number 4, the Google review flyer. Awesome. Mr. Tillman, brand ambassador. Mr. Cotty, the Google review flyer. 10 and 11, moments of impact, new member packet. I like to see a lot of the brand ambassador stuff. Very, very cool. Miss Chapman asks, what did the t-shirt look like? So I use a company called 99designs.com, and they can literally create any type of graphic for you, including t-shirt graphics. And that has worked really, really well for us. And we actually hired them to create our brand ambassador t-shirt. And of course, as I'm trying to log in, it's, well, you got to send this code back and forth, but I'll pull it up for you real quick. And as I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions on anything that we just went over? Anything on online reputation? I mean, it doesn't have to be on online reputation. It can just be on digital marketing in general. Does anybody have any questions? Because I got a few minutes left. And I pulled up the shirt.
I have one, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Monday, how are you?
Good, good. For some reason, my business address does not show up on Instagram anymore when you go to click location. Is there something I'm missing?
Your Instagram no longer shows your address. We're
If I
gonna
put
have
in
to
my
hop on a
address,
call.
it doesn't. Okay, if I put in my address, it doesn't even recognize it there, and it used to.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do, Mr. Bush, I have your email. I'll shoot you my calendar link. Let's hop on a call and I can kind of take a peek from there. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Mr. Tillman, will you have your book available in Orlando? I will. Yes, I will. And if you guys want to come hang out with me in Orlando, February 25th and 26th, I will have copies of my book that you can see. Ms. Chapman, I was able to pull up the picture of the brand ambassador t-shirt, and this is what it looks like. It's got the brand ambassador with the Gracie pack on the front, and then our logo on the back. Okay, so if you want to take a screenshot there real quick. And you know, the cool thing about 99 Designs is you actually get like a ton of different designers that are trying to win your quote unquote contest. So I actually had like 50 different designs to choose from, which was pretty cool. Okay. All right, guys. Any other questions? As always, we'll get the replay out either today or tomorrow. It'll have the keynote. So if you weren't able to take notes fast enough, let me know. I appreciate you guys showing up. Next month's webinar, I told you I committed to doing this every single month. So next month's webinar, if you are into video marketing, is going to be really, really great for you. And I know that Mr. Morales has been killing it with his video marketing, which has been awesome. So make sure that you guys are on that one. I appreciate all of you investing your time with me today, and I hope you make it a wonderful day. I'll see everybody later. Peace.